All right, man. Thank you for returning. My name is Jeff Staten, and this is Pressing Toward the Mark today. We're going to talk about the mandatory nature of your success. We don't normally think of success as mandatory. We think of success as something that we may or may not be able to accomplish. But what if there was an expectation by God for your success? What if he expected it? That would definitely make us wake up tomorrow and pursue our dreams differently, wouldn't it? Yeah, so that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we get started, man, I'm going to ask for those favors as I do every week. Subscribe to the channel, man. If you like what we're doing, like what we're saying, sign up. Secondly, leave a comment. What do you think? Let me know. If you can't type, and then just click the thumbs up or the thumbs down icon and let me know what you think. Also, man, share the video. There are people who are going about pursuing their dreams lackadaisically. They need a fire under them by knowing that God is expecting them to be successful. And also, man, there's a bell icon that you can click if you've already subscribed, and it'll let you know when the next video has been uploaded. All right, man, let's get started. The mandatory nature of your success. One love. Today we're going to be talking about the mandatory nature of your success. The mandatory nature of you being successful in your calling, you being successful in your business, and being successful in what God has called you to do in this earth. I think oftentimes we don't run after with the passion that is necessary, because we think that our dreams, our calling, is something that we can just lay to the side at some point. There's a lackadaisical understanding of the pursuit of the calling of God, the pursuit of the achievement of your dream. If we understood that that God expected you to be successful. Not that he hopes you are successful or he has a desire for you to be successful, but that he expects you to be successful. He expects you to achieve your dream. He expects you to be that person he's called you to be. And there is an expectation of flourishing, of evolving, of expansion, of blossoming in that success, in that calling. I think if we understood that, there would be a different pursuit. There would be a different attitude as it relates to accomplishing those dreams and the things that we are doing to accomplish those dreams. Right? There is an expectation of God concerning you. He expects you to be successful. Now we're gonna look at the parable of the 5 talents to bring that point forward. The parable of the five talents, and you find that in Matthew the 25th chapter, and it starts at the 14th verse and ends at the 30th verse. Now, I'm not going to read the entire parable. And I invite you to go read it. It's a wonderful parable. It has a lot of meaning, not just the mandatory nature of success. It deals with management, employee relationships. There's a whole bunch of understanding you can get from this verse. So I invite you to go read it. But I'm going to bring out the point of your mandatory nature of your success from this verse. I'm not going to read it all again, but I'm going to bring out a few verses to embolden the points that I'm trying to bring across. Now, in the parable of the 5 talents, you have this guy they call a master. Now, this master has servants. So this master decided, you know what? I'm going to go on a business trip, right? But before I go on my business trip, I'm going to give my servants talents, right? Now, talents in this parable is a measure of currency. You have dollars, you have nickels, you have dimes. Talent is a measure of currency. Now, he gave them all different denominations of talents. If you look at the 15th verse, if you look at the 15th verse, it says, and unto one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to every man according to his several ability, and straightway took to his journey. So he didn't give them all the same amounts. He gave them, according to the 15th verse, according to their ability. Right? When the master left, and this is a point that I want to try to get across, is there was an expectation of increase. He expected his servants to increase in their talents. In other words, the master before leaving expected when he returned for the servants to have more talents than they did when he left. Right? And you see evidence of that in the 21st verse. You see evidence of that expectation in the 21st verse when he said, his Lord said unto him, well done. When someone says well done to you, that's a great indication that they're happy, right? That you did something good. He says, well done, thou good and faithful servants. Compliments. Yeah, so when someone gives you compliments, that's another sign that they're happy with you. Thou good and faithful servants, thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of the Lord. And he rewarded them. So there was an exclamation, well done. There were compliments. You're a good dude. And there was a reward. All of this was an indication that the master was happy, and his happiness came when he realized that the servant had more talents than he did when he left. The increase made him happy, right? So unfortunately, there was a servant that did not increase. And this made the master unhappy. And that is found, his displeasure of the servant not increasing is found in the 26th verse. He says, his Lord answered unto him, thou wicked and slothful servant. Insults. Insults. If you find someone insulting you, that's a pretty good sign that they're not happy. Thou knewest that I reap where I sowed not, and gather where I have not sown. So this master was upset. The master was upset that there was no increase. And likewise, man, there is a displeasure in God in us when we don't increase in our talents. The talents that God has given you isn't just given to you for the heck of it, but there is an expectation that God has for you and your talents, and he expects you to increase in it. He expects you to be successful in it. And that when there is no increase and there is no success, there's a great disappointment in God and us. And that's an important point for you to understand. Because if we understood that there is displeasure by God in us when we don't increase in our talent, then we wouldn't just let our talent sit. We wouldn't just sit on our talent. As this servant did, the parable says that the servant buried his talent. That we would do something different with our talent, understanding that there's an expectation. As you sit right now with the talent of singing, you sit right now with the talent of writing. As you sit right now, God is looking upon you lovingly, but also looking at you, expecting you to increase, expecting that talent in you to evolve. All right? So this master explained to the servant why he expected the increase. And if we look at the 27th verse, if we look at the 26th verse, if we go back to the 26th verse, the master said, "Thou knewest that I reap where I sowed not, and gathered where I have not sown." In other words, the master said to the servant, "You know the nature of my business. You knew when I gave you the talent, you understood the nature of what I do. I reap where I sow not, and I gather where I don't straw. My business, what I do for a living, is risky and chancy. So number one, me giving you this talent makes that talent special because of the nature of what I do. And number two, your failure of increase makes what I do more difficult." What if our failure to increase is making the business of God more difficult? What if God's expectation of us to increase is because it aids his business? What if the responsibility of your success lies in ministry, no matter what it is? Even if you sing, even if you build houses, even if you are an artist, what if there is a ministry in what you do? What if what you do aided the business of God? What if your increase causes or in some way modifies the business of God, makes the business of God easier, and your failure to increase makes it more difficult? We understand the business of God, man. We know that God wants to display his love in the earth, that God wants to display his presence in the earth, that God wants to restore relationships between man and God in the earth. We understand the business of God. What if your talent caused that? What if your success had tentacles? And those tentacles that came out from your success not only reached out into your world, but also reached out into the world of others. And God, through your tentacles, God, through your success, touched someone else's life. What if through your success, the tentacles of God's love caused peace in someone else's life, right? What if the tentacles of your success somehow caused someone else to understand the love of God? What if your success caused the business of God to propagate the business of God, and your failure caused it to be more difficult? So this servant was saying to this master was saying to the servant, the expectation. Let me get rid of this email. I had an expectation of your increase because your increase spoke to the nature of my business. Spoke to my being able to do what I do better. So this is what we have to understand, man, that you were not given talents for the heck of it. You weren't giving that ability to be a business person just for the heck of it. You weren't called to be a business person just to achieve a business, right? You were called to be a business person to achieve that business and to increase in that business. That you are called to multiply in that business. You are called to be severely, very successful in that business. And that isn't just an expectation, but it is an expectation of increasing you, so much so that if you do not increase, the master is disappointed. The master is disappointed in your failure to utilize the talents that he's given you. There's a disappointment. This master insulted this servant. So there is almost a disconnection of relationship in your failure. There's almost a disconnection of relationship in your unwillingness to go after your dream. There's almost an insulting to God himself when you don't increase. This master was upset about it, man. He was not happy. So much so that he called the servants names throughout insults. So there is a disappointment. There is a level of anger in God, in us, when we don't utilize what he's giving us in the proper way. Why? The master explained it to the servant. He says, because what I do is difficult. The business of God is difficult as it is, right? It's difficult because people rely on science more than they rely on faith. There are people who have been hurt by other religious people. There are people who believe in separate, discrete understandings of God, right? So the nature of God's business is difficult in itself, right? So our not increasing makes the business of God difficult. God throughout history has utilized man to propagate his love, to display his presence in the earth. He's always used human beings for that. He relies upon us to be able to display his love, his voice in the earth. And our failure to do so makes the business of God more difficult. So in his expectation of you, for you to display, to increase, that increase not only increases revenue for you, but it also increases God's ability to display himself in the earth. The increase in your business increases the business of God. The failure of your increase is the failure of God's business to be displayed in the earth. Right? So your business, your success, your talent isn't just in and for you. It also is a vehicle, a conduit of the will of God, a vehicle, a conduit of the blessings of God. It is also a vehicle and a conduit of God's way to display himself in the lives of others. So there is an expectation. There is a demand. There is a mandatory nature of your success. There is a mandatory nature of increase for you. All right, man, I gotta go. This is a new way to look at your life, man. This is a new way to look at what you're trying to do. If you understood that God has a mandate for you, there's an expectation for you, and that by not increasing and not doing well, you're making the business of God more difficult, that will put a new fire under you. They will make you get up tomorrow and look at things differently. That'll make a shy person willing to get on the phone and make phone calls, won't it? It'll make a shy person get outside and start driving around and knocking on doors in an essence to increase in the business and the talent that God has given us. Go out there, man. Go out there and be successful. Go out there and increase in your talent. Go out there and propagate the love of God through your business, through your talent, and through your success. All right, man. One love.